There is a highway with no one on it, no hard hats, no one standing at the shoulder with a flag, just machines, pavers, rollers, a scatter of drones overhead, laying down a road through the night while, according to the video I watched, America is still arguing about how to fund a train. It's a good opening. It got my attention. And it is, on inspection, not quite true. That gap between what happened and what we were told happened is what I want to talk to you about for the next 13 minutes. Not because it's about a highway, because it's about something much older than highways and much more expensive than a YouTube video. The video counts down 16 Chinese inventions. A highway rebuilt by robots, a humanoid companion robot, an engine that breaks a fuel efficiency record, a data center on the floor of the ocean, every single one bracketed by the same 2-beat rhythm. Here is the astonishing thing China built. And here is what America doesn't have. It's been watched by millions of people. And I want to be very clear about something before I go any further. I am not here to tell you it's fake. I went and checked. Company filings, government records, Guinness World Records' own public database, the trade press that actually covers these industries for a living. And here's what I found. It's stranger than it's all true, and it's stranger than it's all fake. Every one of the 16 claims traces back to something real. Let me show you 3 of them. The highway I opened with, 158 kilometers, rebuilt with, and I quote, no people on site. The 158 kilometers is real. It's the full length of a genuine 3-year construction project in China. What's not quite right is what happened on it. The unmanned demonstration, the actual robots actually laying asphalt with no driver, covered part of that highway, not all of it. And the equipment maker's own published numbers from a comparable deployment describe something specific, a 60% reduction in labor. Sit with that for a second, because I think it actually undersells how the story got told. A 60% reduction in a highway construction crew is an extraordinary industrial achievement. It is simply not the same sentence as no people on site. Somewhere between the real number and the video script, 60% became 0. Second example, the video says China's Shanghai maglev train runs daily passenger service at 431 kilometers an hour, the fastest train in the world in daily use right now. That was true. For 17 years, it was true. Then, in May of 2021, the operators quietly cut the cruising speed to 300 kilometers an hour to save power and reduce wear on the track. It has never been restored. The video was filmed and released 5 years after that happened. It's not a lie. It's a fact that used to be true, reported as though time had stood still since the day it was measured. Here's the one that stayed with me longest. The video tells the story of an Android company that supposedly fooled thousands of trained professionals at a robotics expo by planting human beings in costume next to their robots. And nobody, the video says, could tell the difference. The event happened. Here's what actually happened at it. The deception fell apart during the show. A photograph went around the internet of one of the robots sitting at a table eating lunch. The tech press covered it under headlines like, "Company busted showing off robots that actually have humans inside." It's a story about a stunt that got caught in real time. The video tells it as though the deception succeeded. It tells the story backwards. None of these are fabrications. All 3 of them are the same move, wearing different clothes. Take something real, strip off the one condition that made it true. Let the more impressive version stand in its place. And once you see that move, you start seeing it everywhere in the video. A product name garbled into something that sounds better. A battery spec measured to 80% charge, presented as a full one. A years-old pilot project, narrated in the present tense. A comparison that quietly swaps what's actually being measured, so the number lands harder. I want to give this pattern a name because I don't think it's new, and I don't think it belongs to any one country, any one video, or any one scriptwriter. In 1887, in a basement in Cleveland, Ohio, two physicists, Albert Michelson and Edward Morley, built one of the most sensitive instruments the world had ever seen to go looking for something everyone at the time was certain had to exist, an invisible substance filling the entire universe, called the luminiferous ether. The reasoning was completely sound. Every wave anyone had ever studied needed a medium to wave in. Water for a ripple, air for a sound. Light is a wave. Therefore, light needs a medium too. Nobody had ever seen it or touched it or measured it directly. But it had to be there because a wave without a medium made no sense. And a universe that made no sense was not something 19th century physics was prepared to tolerate. They built the instrument. They turned it through every angle, every season for years. They found nothing, not a small effect where they expected a large one. Nothing, ever, at all. The ether did not exist. It never had. The ether has a great deal of company. Walk back through the history of how we've explained the world to ourselves, and you find a long, quiet gallery of confident, careful, wrong answers. Crystalline spheres carrying the planets because the heavens were perfect and perfection moves in circles. Phlogiston, the substance things were said to release when they burned, which explained fire beautifully, until someone weighed the ashes and found they'd gotten heavier, not lighter. None of these were stupid ideas. Everyone was the best answer its age could build from what it had, and everyone was the same kind of mistake, not an error of arithmetic, but an error of appetite. We met something we didn't understand, and rather than sit in the discomfort of not understanding it, we made up an answer and pointed at it. Here is the thing I actually want you to take away from tonight. That habit, reach for the satisfying answer, skip the uncomfortable checking, is not something that got worse because of algorithms or China or YouTube. It is the oldest habit our species has. What's changed is not the habit. It's the number of channels we now have to publish the pattern through before anyone has a chance to check it. We are not more careful than the physicists who believed in the ether. We're exactly as pattern hungry as they were. We just publish faster now. Now, you might reasonably say, fine, it's a YouTube video, nobody got hurt. And I'd agree with you mostly. So let me tell you where I actually watch this habit do damage. I spend a lot of my working life around large capital projects, the kind that take a decade or more to prove right or wrong. A few years ago, an internal audit was leaked from one of the largest megacity projects on Earth. Buried inside its own planning documents was a projection, the assumed nightly rate for a hotel inside the city that had been quietly moved from about $500 a night to nearly $1,900, not to fool the public, to make an unworkable financial model clear its own internal review. By the time anyone outside the project caught it, roughly $50 billion had already moved. That is the same habit as the frozen speed record and the borrowed highway mileage. Reach for the number that makes the story work. Let it stand in for the number that's actually true, just with 9 more zeros attached and real people standing exactly where the money eventually landed. The fix at both scales is not complicated. It's just slower, and it asks something of us that a good story never asks. To say in the same breath what we know and what we don't. Check the claim against the source that actually made it before you repeat it. Say the condition out loud. The 80%, not the 100. The demonstration, not the whole highway. The year the numbers stop being true. Never let the impressive version stand in for the honest one, just because the honest one took longer to find or landed with less punch. That's not a rule for journalists. It's not even mainly a rule for engineers, though I've spent a lot of years making sure it governs mine. It's a rule for anyone who is about to repeat something they were told to someone who's going to believe them. So here's what I'd actually ask you to do with the next 13 minutes you spend anywhere. A video, a headline, a pitch deck, a press release, your own. Find where the claim actually came from. Say the condition out loud, not just the number, the 80%, the demonstration, the year. And let "I don't know yet" be a sentence you're willing to say in public, because it is very often the truest sentence available, and the habit we're fighting only wins when that sentence feels unacceptable to say. I'll tell you where I nearly failed my own test. Researching a completely unrelated project earlier this year, heritage law, nothing to do with any of this, I read that a Canadian charity owns 2 properties and takes in about $2 million a year. Neither number survived a primary source check. I almost repeated both anyway. Same habit, much smaller stakes, same keystroke away from becoming something I'd have published as fact. None of the 16 inventions in that video need to be smaller than they are to be worth talking about. A country building autonomous paving fleets and batteries that work at 40 below zero, and farm drones that outclass anything on the market is a genuinely remarkable story. It just isn't the story you get by reaching for the most impressive available number and skipping the part where you check it. That highway I opened with is real. The machines are real. What was missing wasn't the workers. It was someone willing to say plainly how much of the road they actually built, and let that be enough. Thank you.